Hi there. This is just a quick little video to give you some intro to chemistry and how things are going to work because it'll be different than maybe what you're traditionally used to seeing. In this class, you will receive all lectures through video format. And I will tell you that this is not something that I'm doing because of virtual learning. This is something that we do in chemistry every year. And let me talk you through a little bit about why. Um, when you spend class time lecturing, um, it's not the best use of time, in my opinion. Um, Students take notes at different paces. Some students take notes really fast, some students take notes really slow. So somebody's sitting there for a long time or somebody misses things, right? And then the teacher tends to also talk while they're lecturing, and usually you're so busy writing stuff down that you miss what the teacher was saying. And then what happens if you're absent, right? Um, all these things come into play. And so video lectures take care of that because the student watches the video, not during class time, and they take notes just like they would in class, but they can pause. They can rewind. There's no missing notes because you're absent. You don't have to borrow anyone's notebook, none of that. You always have all of the content available to you, and you can go back and rewatch the lectures if you need to, like if you're studying for a quiz or something. This really allows you to watch the lectures at your own pace, and this maximizes our class time because instead of sitting in class listening to a lecture and then getting the homework and then you're like, I don't know how to do this, and you have all these questions. No, 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 no. You take the notes outside of class time and then you bring your questions to class. And at the very beginning of class, I will say, okay, what questions do you guys have? And I will answer all the questions that didn't make sense in the lecture. And then we will do the activity that you would have traditionally done as homework. And so if you get stumped on something, I'll be right there with you in the room or in the Zoom. And so then you're actually doing the learning, doing the science, doing the activity with me instead of doing it on your own at home. Okay. And honestly, this idea, sometimes it's called a flipped classroom, is gaining in popularity because the research supports it. Studies are showing that students learn better or at least just as well with flipped learning as they do with traditional learning. So it supports advanced students, it supports students that struggle, it supports everyone in between. Okay, so that's how we're going to be doing video lectures in chemistry this year. And one thing to note is that all of chemistry is done this way, no matter what teacher your child has, chem honors, chem regular, we all do video lectures. Another thing that's going to be different is when there's an assessment, we're going to be assessing learning targets. And basically that learning target is a very particular thing, concept, or skill we want them to be able to do. So instead of just having a general quiz on reactions and getting a B- on it and thinking, oh, okay, we're going to break it down much more small. So instead of all the reactions, I might quiz you on one type of reaction. And then that way, oh, I know this reaction, I know this reaction. Oh, this one didn't go so well. And that's how you know where to study instead of just getting a quiz back and getting that B- and going, I guess I knew some of it and didn't know some of it. Okay. So on the screen here, here's an example of like the first two learning targets of the year. So maybe on your first quiz, on the front side, it would say, I can describe the structure of an atom, including protons, neutrons, and electrons. And any questions below that will be quizzing that exact thing. Okay, and then maybe you flip over to the back side and it's, I can determine the atomic number, mass number, and charge of an atom. And so any of those questions would look on that specific thing. So you could very easily do really well on one and maybe a little bit more shaky on the other, but at least now you know what you know what you still need to study, okay? Your score is going to be out of 10. The good news is you can use your notes on these quizzes, okay? So what we just talked about with your video lectures, you're going to be jotting down notes. You can use those notes to help you on your quizzes. So if you've taken good notes, you should be able to do well on your quizzes. And one other interesting thing that might be new to you is you get to retake any quiz, okay? As long as we're within that unit, you can retake the quiz. I think this is really, really nice because it allows you, if you just like didn't understand, if you just messed up, if you have testing anxiety, it allows you to retake it, right? But you do have to be timely about it. It does have to be within that unit. So you can't just wait 3 months and be like, oh yeah, can I retake that quiz from September? No, it's got to be from within that unit, okay? The final exam in here is not going to be like your traditional final exam. It is not cumulative in the way that you're not going to be asked questions on every single thing you've learned. Basically, you know how you had those retakes on the slide before? Well, your final exam is one big retake. And any quizzes that you didn't get a 10 out of 10 on, any learning targets that you're like, I can do better, guess what? You're going to get a couple questions on those, and that's basically your final exam. So there might be whole parts of it you don't take because you've already mastered that, and then you might answer these questions. And then if you do better, you'll get a higher score. And so your final exam can only raise your score. It can't lower it. Or at the very worst, it'll stay the same. But I've never had anyone do that. They've always at least raised their score a little bit, which is great. And you might notice that this sounds a little bit different than what you're maybe used to in traditional classes. This style of teaching is called standards-based grading. And the whole point behind it is that we want to clearly state what you need to know. And it allows you to go at your own pace. Not everybody learns at the same pace. And what's important to me is that you learn the material. And so if it takes you an extra week, if it takes you an extra couple days, okay. And some people might say, well, that's not fair. They got to retake it and get a B, but I got to be the first time. Yeah, well, you could also retake that B if you want to. But what you're not realizing is it's really hard to do a retake because you have to learn that stuff outside of class because now the class has moved on. You have to learn it outside. You have to have maybe some extra help sessions with me so that you understand it. And then you got to make that time to go do the retake on your off mod. And that's a lot of extra work. And so if you put in that work and you prove to me that you learned it, I think that should reflect in your grade because I think your grade should be reflective of what you know, okay, and what you've learned. And I never, ever want anyone to feel like that their grade is what it is and there's nothing they can do about it. Nope, not true. You can retake any quiz, and even the final exam's a retake. So you're never stuck. You're never in a hole you can't be dug out of. Unless you have 100%, there's literally always a way you can improve, okay? So in chemistry, we're gonna be focused on learning and improvement, and through some of these different things, like the learning targets and the retakes and the video lectures, this will all hopefully help you to be the very best chemistry student possible.